Hiya guys, I was just thinking the other day about a side effect that I've started having of Kaftrio and Trikafta, which I didn't expect to affect me. I've noticed lately that my anxiety and my need for reassurance is pretty much gone through the roof. Now with cystic fibrosis, it kind of makes you a ballsy person, in my opinion. It makes you not really need people's opinions, and the way I always figured it in my mind is I'm not here long enough to really care about whatever other people think and what other people think of me and the decisions that I make. So say for instance in work, I've noticed myself asking my boss for reassurance about every little thing. I did a session a few days ago with some new starters, and basically it's an introduction to quality assurance, which I'm a quality assurance analyst, so Mark advisors calls, and this was on the complaint side of things. And it's just me basically telling them what I'm going to do, the support they can get from me, what I'm looking for when I mark the calls. And all the way through it, I'm kind of thinking in the back of my head, am I doing enough? Am I saying enough? Is this good enough? Am I going to get in trouble for this? Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And usually, I'd go into one of them sessions and I'd say the right thing, but I'd say whatever the fuck I wanted, and my attitude would be, well, I've done enough, I've given them enough, this is what I'm giving them, no more, it is good enough, and I know it's good enough. So I'd be confident to a fault, and that's worked in my favour a lot of times, and sometimes, as you can imagine, it hasn't worked in my favour. Why spend my time worrying about all this bullshit when I can just be confident, go in there, do it, and then if it's not good enough, it's not good enough. Fair enough, I'll do it again. I didn't have that level of concern for it. But now, and I think it's maybe because I've got to be around a bit longer and I've got to deal with the fallout and the consequences of all this for a longer period of time, it started me second guessing myself, thinking, am I right to do this? Am I right to do this? Am I right to do this? So I think Kaftrio's caused me a little bit of anxiety, and it's in every aspect of my life really. It's not just in work, it's at home as well with Olivia. I'm asking for reassurance on everything. Even down to things like, we've had a new sofa delivered off DFS and they haven't given us the proper legs. No one's been in contact with me. They've pissed us about. The customer service has been shit. And usually, I'd shit a brick on that. I'd be phoning them up and I wouldn't be giving the advisor shit, but I'd want something. I'd want my first payment wiped off or something because I haven't had the product that I bought, whether you agree with that or not. But all of a sudden, when I'm on the phone, I'm like, hello, I've not had my couch, but it is okay. And Olivia's sat there looking at me like, what's happened to you? You're a bald man with muscles and you look like you think you're hard. Why are you being a wimp? And then I'll come off the phone and be like, do you think I was nasty to that person? Was I alright? So maybe Kaftrio's making me a nicer person overall, but it's also taken away that level of cockiness that I had. And I kind of liked that. It kind of did a lot for me. There was times when it didn't and I dropped myself in the shit. But mainly because I'm nice to people anyway, it was just more of a confidence thing, which some people could perceive as arrogance. But it's going. Cystic fibrosis brave face is a thing. I don't know whether people call it that, I might have just coined a term for it, but you have to make sure that your walls are thick and your resilience level is through the roof. But Kaftrio and Trikafta, it breaks that down, and it really, really does. And I know why a lot of people have gone on to antidepressants and stuff. I personally wouldn't go on them because what I like to do, and it's easier said than done, I like to sit and do videos like this, to be honest, and think, what is it that's pissing me off? How can I fix it? And if I can't fix it, what's the alternative? What do I do then? And that's always got me through. But with Kaftrio, that's harder to do. Admittedly, that's really hard to do because you start flapping. You're like, oh my God, what do I do now? What happens if this? What happens if this? What happens? It's too many what ifs now. Everything's a fucking what if. It's like if I go to Asda and I'm trying to select a meal for the night, I'll be like, oh, I'll get a curry. What if I had a Chinese? What if the Chinese is better than the curry? What the fuck? And it's irrational. It's making me irrational, but it's also making me more human. I'm not this fucking autonomous, as they say, robot anymore who just makes decisions because he doesn't really care. Because the way I can phrase it is, cystic fibrosis to me was like my main drive, and everything else around it didn't matter because that was what was killing me. But now it isn't killing me as much. Maybe that's where my anxiety comes from, because I'm taking more things seriously. Say for instance, opening post. I never open my post usually. I bury my head in the sand, and while I'm burying my head in the sand, I don't really give a shit what's in the post. That's caught me out a few times, obviously. But now, I run straight to the post and I'm like, oh, what's this? So whereas before I didn't give a shit. So that's kind of a plus. That's made me actually be more of an adult. But at the same time, it adds worry that I didn't usually have, because now, if I'm going to be here for another 20 or 30 years, you kind of got to deal with your affairs while you're alive, haven't you? With cystic fibrosis, there's a lot of things you can't have, and there's a lot of things that are delayed. So one of the main things is not being able to have kids. Now, I got told at 16, and it didn't mean anything to me at 16, but slowly but surely throughout the years, when you see your friends having kids, your family having kids, it starts to get to the point where it could potentially sting, and you build up a resistance to it. And the way I built up a resistance to it was, I told myself that it might never happen. If I really wanted to, I could adopt, and there's better things in life than having a kid. But if I'm honest with you, I'd love to have a child. And me and Lydia are going through IVF. But at the moment, and I know Olivia's feeling it too, because Olivia's not had the practice. She's not had 16 years to prepare for this. She's had 3 that she's been with me. And the things that CF takes away from me, it also takes away from her in our life. So I feel like it's a lot harder for her. But lately, when people are talking about having the kids, because there's a right baby boom at the moment because everyone's in lockdown, it's a little bit harder to be happy for people. And I'm not ashamed to admit that, because it's one of them things in it, you've got to be honest with yourself. I would never make the person who's talking about the kid feel like that, because the world doesn't revolve around me. Mine and Olivia's world revolves around us. But you've still got to understand that people move on and people do things that you potentially can't do. But I'd say it's just getting a little bit harder for both of us to celebrate other people's successes, and I hate saying that, but it is. And that's got more and more from Kaftrio, because my usual way of dealing with that would be to congratulate the person, and then later on when they show me pictures of the kids, I'd be I'd be responsive and I'd show an interest, but in the back of my mind, I'm not interested. And that's a horrible thing to say, but again, it's a true thing to say, because I don't want to hurt myself by thinking, oh my God, that kid's beautiful, I want one, I can't have one. It starts that chain of motion, doesn't it, in your head? So I've always been able to kind of detach from most situations, but now I'm on this wonder drug, I can't detach. And I'm sat there thinking, oh God, I want a kid. I'd love my child to be like that. And then you're almost like, you're looking at the person showing you the photos and you're kind of going, will you fuck off, show me them photos. But you can't do that, because you can't be jealous of other people. It's no one's fault. I don't blame myself for the cystic fibrosis. I don't blame my mum and dad. I don't really believe in any sort of deity or God. It's just not for me. I respect people that do. You can believe what you want, but it's not for me. So in this world, I believe in people, I believe in me, and I believe in the people around me. And that's how I've got through, and that's how I'll continue to get through, because you can only really depend on yourself and the support of your friends and family. I have to remind myself of the good stuff that I've got, how far I've come. I've got to 34 years old, I'm still here, that wasn't expected. You might do these same things in your head. You might think, right, I've got this. You don't have to compete with anyone else. Your life is your life. Just because someone's having a baby tomorrow doesn't mean you won't have a baby by IVF in a year or a year and a half. Just because someone's got something doesn't mean you have to have it. You have got what you've got. I try and be happy with what I've got and the life I've got, and I've always been very happy, but Kaftrio just makes it a little bit harder to appreciate everything that I have. And I feel like that would be the same for a lot of people. it kind of takes it away from being, thankful that CF hasn't killed you and thankful for everything that you have got, and you start wondering what you could have now, what you've missed out on. And I think that's a big mental shift. So, here's my advice. Try and think of all the good stuff that you have got. Try and think what's making you unhappy, what's making you anxious. Do sort of the root cause of it. What is it deep down inside that's making you happy? And if you can fix it, fix it. If you can't fix it, make sure you understand it and think of an alternative. And you'll say, well, what if there is no alternative? But in my opinion, and this is how I get through my day-to-day life, there is always an alternative for anything that is taken away from you. To summarise, Kaftrio is absolutely amazing, but it messes with your mind because now cystic fibrosis isn't crushing down on you. You've got to start thinking of other things in the world, and that's scary, it's difficult, but you can get through it. I can get through it. Let's smash it.